Because when I lie like this, it's just fucking... That's me. So I got to do this. Yeah. I've saved 30 grand on renting bills by living at the back of my van. Let me show you. Hiya, I'm Ron. I'm an electrician based in Edinburgh in Scotland, and this is my camper van conversion. 2 years ago this week actually, I moved into this van. Back in April 2023, I was spending about £1,000 a month on rent and bills when I just thought enough was enough. I was working my arse off as an electrician installing electric vehicle chargers, like in people's homes. And I just found that the work-life balance just wasn't there at all. And I just did something radical and just basically ended up getting a van and just did it all myself. So what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to talk you through why I did it, and then I'm also going to show you the van, show you how I did it. Mine's a very basic setup, and genuinely what I want to show you is that that's all you really need. So first of all, the van itself. The van is a Ford Transit 2021 short wheelbase. I renovated it myself. It cost between 1,500 to £2,000. But why did I choose a Ford? What I would suggest to people when they're looking for a van is to go for the biggest first and work your way down the list, okay, based on what's appropriate to your needs. I knew I would need a van that was big enough to support living in it full time. Okay, so straight away I started looking at Sprinters, Mercedes Sprinter, that type, long wheelbase, high top. But immediately I worked down the list because first and foremost, I'm in an urban area. I wanted to be stealthy. I wanted to be inconspicuous so that I wasn't bothering the locals. I ended up coming down a size, down to medium. So that is your Ford Transits, just like mine, or your Volkswagen Transporters. That sort of medium range, short wheelbase. It's enough space to live in, but it's not going to draw too much attention. And another factor is height and height restrictions. The car park I'm in today in Long Nidri Bent, it's an amazing car park, but it has a 1.9 meter restriction. This van just gets in it. So that's another thing to consider, not just the length of the vehicle, but the height. It's going to limit where you can park and where you can enjoy and end up calling home. But I like to consider all options, so then I look down even further at the cheaper options, like your smaller vans. For example, British Gas uses Volkswagen Caddies. Often they sell them off at auction, and those end up in the second-hand car market. And there's a big market for British Gas X Caddies. I looked at them, they're cheaper than this van that I bought, but ultimately I thought, for full-time van life, it's just not enough. You need the space, especially if you're in the trades and you have lots of tools. For someone who's single and potentially working from home, that could work. It could be doable. But if you do have the money and you can stretch it, I'd look at getting a size up. So I've talked about the van, I've talked about the exterior. Now I'm going to show you the interior and how I've done it. Okay, one of the objectives of this video was to show you that van life doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be perfect. As with a lot of things on social media, there's a lot of pressure to perhaps perform or show that you match the aesthetic of the lifestyle. But I find that that's just not the case. And in essence, all you need is just the space itself. And it just depends on what your needs are. And those needs are just completely unique to yourself. So my van is very basic. It is essentially just a bed and a desk. Obviously there's more going on here, and I'll talk you through that now. But first of all, I needed insulation. On the floor, I used 35mm insulation board. I have insulation, fiberglass or that plastic stuff, stuffed into the cavities with silver foil, I think. It was like some silver bubble wrap. And then held it in place with silver back foil. And then I did the same again with the roof or the ceiling. 35mm insulating board covered with that silver foamy stuff. I'll try and find the link. And silver back, and held in place with silver back foil. So yeah, the walls are pine. They're pine wood. You know the strip stuff you get in the wood section at B&Q. I often get asked about the ceiling. What's covering the ceiling is a product called acoustic board. Again, I got it from B&Q. The windows. I got the windows from a company called Camper Glass. They do kits, and I installed it myself. At the time, it cost me 350 quid. As a self-install. Initially, for power, I just had a battery pack from EcoFlow, and that cost £650. So the actual desk unit, I say desk because it's not really a kitchen unit. It's just like a surface I use for like admin and for cooking on. I actually just use a gas stove from the Nomad's kitchen. As I say, it's dead simple. So what I did do is I actually did a bit of a cheat a bit of a cheat. Okay, it's a bit of a quick fix, all right? So what I did was I got 2 bedside cabinets from a bargain store, like, I think it was like B&M Bargain, 30 quid each. Okay, then I needed the surface, right? What you'll find is to get a kitchen counter is like 200 quid, 300 quid minimum from B&Q. So what I did was got a coffee table from IKEA for 40 quid. Got rid of the legs and just used the surface. Cut it up and made it into an L shape. As you can see, that's worked for me just fine. 2 years now. And to be fair, it doesn't look too bad. Again, the bed is a simple construction. Just need, at the minimum, you need 4 supporting bars, 2 lengthways, 1 across, and then supports in the middle, and then also in the center. Then you need a surface. What I'll say about the actual surface itself where you'll lie, what I'll say is it's ideal to get bed slats. But if for whatever reason you can't be else doing that, then I've just used an MDF sheet. The problem with that is circulation of air. Okay, you need circulation of air to get rid of condensation. I actually did end up drilling holes, but I probably should do a few more, but can't be asked. A lot of you ask me, Ron, how do you fit widthways in the van? And the truth is I don't. Okay, I actually lie diagonally. I'm not joking. Because when I lie like this, it's just fucking... That's me. So I got to do this. Yeah. Right, I'm going to show you why I went with the bed this way. Okay, so initially I thought to have, you've probably seen it where people have 2 benches either side above the wheel arches, and then a clear space through the middle that they'll turn into like a table. Well, I found that I actually just, with that, you only then have 2 storage slots either side. But bear in mind, you've also got to account for the wheel arches, which take up a lot of space. That's all you'll have for storage, because that middle way, then you're not going to be able to put stuff there, because you'll constantly be putting the table up and then taking it away, using it as a space. I needed like a permanent big amount of space, which is another reason I went with the bed widthways like this, because it just means that that whole area there can be dedicated to storage. Under here, in the van is basically everything I own, except for a few valuables. You've probably noticed, or some of you might be wondering where my tools are. Well, when I work on sites, there's a toolbox on site. So basically, it's in the toolbox on site. But when I'm not on site, it's basically in the van with me. Everything else is in the van. So I got my clothes, like socks, underwear, that side, clothes, coats. I've also got extra sleeping bag in case it does get cold. Essentially, it's just a big open space. So I'm living in a van to save money on rent and bills, and my ultimate goal is to get a house by the end of this year, 2026, or early 2027 latest. I've got 2 big problems though, right? First of all, I have no fixed abode, right? And secondly, I have irregular work, meaning because I'm in construction, I take up short-term construction contract, and the mortgage providers will want to know more details about both of those points. But that is a question I get asked about a lot. First of all, no fixed abode. Well, actually, I do technically have a fixed abode. My parents live in Scarborough in North Yorkshire, and I've used their address for the last 2 years. It's where all my official correspondences go to, and it's essentially where the DVLA/police/government/everyone thinks I live. And technically, it is like living at home. It's as if I live at home with my parents, but instead of sleeping in the fucking living room or the spare bedroom, I happen to sleep 300 miles away in a fucking lay-by, all right? So I don't think that'll be a huge issue, and I think the mortgage providers should understand. The second one is a bigger issue, the irregular income. Although this isn't specific to van life, it's one maybe some of you can give me a bit of advice on. As I say, as an irregular construction contract worker, it's about proving that I can just make the income. However, having said that, by living in the van, I've saved a sizable deposit. So I would hope, these factors, it will all come into play and they'll let me off. To be fair though, worst comes to worst, I do what everyone else is doing and get a job. Yeah, so, I could just wind my neck in and just do what everyone else does. Just get a job, bro. It's not hard. I would not recommend this live to everyone. Today's a lovely spring morning. I'm at the beach and I'm not working at the minute. Okay, it's hunky-dory. I've just had a brew. It's fucking lovely. However, winter in the UK can be depressing enough, all right, as you all know. Okay, so in the van, it's multiplied. Okay, the major issue is damp and condensation, right? You don't have anywhere else to go when it's raining other than in this space. And often, because it's cold, you end up in bed, reading or whatever. And it's just, you feel trapped. And you start to get really getting pissed off with how cold you just are all the time. Yeah, van life, it is tough. And one last point that I'd like to make is that van life, for me, genuinely started as like a practical, pragmatic approach to saving money on rent and bills, right? And living in one of the most expensive cities in the UK. But it ended up actually becoming a lifestyle, okay? And I know it's cheesy, but I mean it. Van life doesn't just mean that I can save money on rent and bills, which is amazing, and means I have more money for my own stuff, my own projects. But it also means that I can, as someone who works in construction, it means that I can call anywhere home within reason and go and work anywhere. Recently, I've come back from a 2-month working holiday in the Scottish Highlands. Okay, we were doing a rewire of a hostel. I've also been working in the Scottish borders. I've worked all over Scotland, and I've worked down in England too. But what it means is that the job market, as far as commuting is concerned, the job market across the country is open to me. Do you know what I mean? And that's because of van life. Obviously, some jobs you'll get accommodation provided, yeah, whatever, that's fine. But I can see it working as well for other industries and for people who work from home as well. I can genuinely see this as an opportunity to get that work-life balance back. I've always been into the outdoors, okay? I did outdoor sports at college. I didn't do very well in school, so I did outdoor sports at college. I was an outdoor instructor, then I joined the Royal Marines, and I've just always been an adventurer, now a humble seasoned adventurer. So again, living in and then waking up and falling asleep in nature like I am today, it's amazing. And it has, in a way, it has healed me. It's healed me. It's not healed me, but it is just, as I say, it's great to get that work-life balance back. So this is where I'm parked at a place called Long Nidri Bents. Basically, it's Edinburgh's secret seaside beach. It's top secret. You actually aren't allowed to stay here overnight. I've moved here specifically because it's quiet just to film today, although I do use it in the day, and it's an amazing place. Like, I'll show you later on. There's free showers outdoors, ice cold as well, so nice. Yeah, over that bridge there, you've got like sand dunes. It's hard to put it into perspective, I'll just show you, but the beach is literally there. What's really cool about here though is on a clear day like today, you can see Edinburgh, you can see the castle, and you can see the famous bridges as well over the Firth of Forth. So, free shower, ice cold on the beach.